In terms of my proudest achievement with my time at PortmanDentex, I think that it's going to be transitioning away from general dentistry, when I'll be looking after my patients for some 24, 25 years in some cases, to just one specialism, so implant-based dentistry. And I think the support that I've had from the company in that regard has been outstanding. They've made sure that my patients of all of those years have been looked after, have been well treated fairly. The communication that PortmanDentex have provided those patients with us has made it a pretty seamless transition and very little pushback, which I have to say I wasn't expecting at the time. But no, I think that's probably it. They're moving from general dentistry to a specialism and making sure that those patients are being well looked after. I think working as a practice clinical lead for PortmanDentex allows me, or indeed any of the other candidates, and of course I've spoken to loads and loads, because one of the things about being a practice clinical lead is the engagement that one has with one's peers who are in the same position, is having the ability to influence decision making within the practice. And I think we all can positively benefit from experience. I've been doing this for a little while, and the engagement with the other team members. So yesterday we had our practice meeting, and we split it off into several sections. So we have our nurses meeting, we have our front of house meeting, and then we have our clinicians meeting, and then we come together for the wider practice meeting at the end of it, and being able to make sure that decisions are communicated effectively, those decisions are going to positively impact upon all the spheres in the practice is super important, and certainly something I really enjoy. It's one of the most fun roles I think that I've had during my time at PortmanDentex, the practice clinical lead bit, on the ground, real time, real effect. Yeah, great. I've always been a get here early, be the first person to arrive to make sure that everything's set up, review one's day, make sure that everything's where it should be. And I'm fortunate enough to catch up with our practice manager every morning. So we spend 5 to 10 minutes just making sure that there's no burning issues, that if there's anything that we know is going to be coming up in the next day or week or whatever that might look like, that we've got plans in place to look after that. As all the team arrives, making sure that they're all in that space as well. Some people sometimes come in, they look as if they've got the world on their shoulders, being able to perhaps look after them before the day starts. And I think then moving forward is making sure that one has a positive attitude throughout the course of the day. Dentistry, I think, is a little bit like being on stage. Throughout the course of the day, you've got to present a fantastically positive face to patients, and I think that translates to the wider team as well. I think if one had a bit of a negative or inward-looking aspect, then that might not play out quite so well. So again, I think a nice positive outlook from the start, making sure that goes throughout the day, clearly is going to positively impact upon yourself, but also the wider team. Well, I think the benefits personally and professionally from being a practice clinical lead at PortmanDentex are probably self-evident. One of the nice things about being a practice owner originally was you had an opportunity to directly steer the business, directly steer patient care, directly steer how the team are managed, and as you mentioned yourself, the well-being of that wider team as well. And practice clinical lead allows you to do all of those things, but perhaps not with some of the downsides that came with practice ownership. So I think there's a lot of the pluses, but perhaps not with quite so much of the negatives. And again, that leads on then to the personal well-being bit, where of course, I remember staying up until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning preparing for a CQC visit, making sure that all my paperwork on 2 different computer screens was all where it needed to be for my telephone interview that I had, and of course then the practice visit afterwards. That bit's gone. We just had actually our CQC visit, which went brilliantly, I have to say, because the practice manager is fabulous. But again, I get to do all of those lovely bits, but without perhaps some of the negative bits that go alongside of it. So from a personal point of view, as I say, I get to, I think, hope to positively impact upon the outcome of the practice, the team, the wider business, but perhaps without quite so much of the emotional or financial attachments that perhaps one had originally when one was a practice owner. Opportunities that present themselves, I think, are probably sometimes driven by one's own sort of self-ambition. So I've always wanted the practice that I work in here to evolve, to get to be the best practice locally, and given the competition that we have here locally, that's quite some achievement, but we're absolutely on the cusp of that now. I think we've got a number of different specialists who now work with us here, so we've almost got like a little mini dental hospital. And I think that was always the ambition. Being practice clinical lead has allowed me, I think, to help drive some of that move toward that end goal that perhaps I'd always envisaged it, 20 years ago when we set it up, but never was in a position to be able to do it. And I think, again, with PortmanDentex being the bigger organisation that it is and having the great reputation that it does, attracting in those individuals to come and work alongside of us here has been actually remarkably straightforward, and being able to populate their diaries, to be able to keep them busy and productive and happy. All of those things, I think that's probably where we are. Being able to deliver now on a vision that I perhaps had 20 years ago, but because I was so focused as a practice owner in making sure everything ran smoothly and all the rest of it, perhaps couldn't see that wider end goal that I'd always had in the back of my mind. But yeah, now we're pretty much there, I think, on delivering just that.